Today, there's a horrific story that just broke of a Guatemalan migrant, undocumented, setting a woman on fire in a Brooklyn subway. Horrific, horrendous. But there's a reason behind it, and that's what I want to talk about. He was homeless. He was what we call homeless, and people I don't think really recognize what a mouthful that word is. We just sort of, it's just a casual occurrence. We know it's a crisis or we know it's a problem, but we don't recognize the severity and the emotional toll that it takes on people when they're living in those circumstances. You had Jordan Neely earlier in the year who had a complete meltdown on the subway. That is not uncommon for people who are living in those sort of circumstances. People without housing have succumbed to some of the worst emotional and mental states that you can imagine. Well, you're saying, why haven't they done things like this Guatemalan migrant just did? I know there have been attacks on people, but this was horrendous. This was just a depravity that, it was just unspeakable. Why? But what drove him to do that? The difference is that he had higher expectations than the average American. The average American knows within a short time of getting on the streets that you're on your own. Nobody cares. Few people are going to help you. If you've ever lived on the streets, you know that the sense of abandonment that comes from being an unhoused person on the streets. Well, what makes this guy different? This guy, unlike people on the streets who are homeless in America, had hope. Hope given to him by a liberal party who said, we open our doors to you. And even though he had been caught and deported, it was 2018 or 2019, he got back in because he knew that someone wanted him here, especially in California, but all over the country. There are liberals saying, come here, we'll take care of you, regardless of the resources they have. The lack of resources, I should say, for people who are already in the country living on the streets. They tell people they can come here. One of the most irresponsible things they could do, because there are not enough resources and they aren't properly using the resources that they have here. It's not they don't have enough resources. I'm not going to go into that in this talk. But yeah, they've got plenty of resources, but they misappropriate the funding and it's just a mess. So they certainly don't have any right bringing other people here who are going to end up in the same situation. And this guy, he was going through what the average American person on the street goes through. But he couldn't take it. He had that sense of entitlement that had been given to him. And I personally believe that he just snapped. That he just was in such a state of mental decline that he took it out on the most vulnerable person he could find. And that was that woman sitting on the subway. Few people who are American homeless have take things in their own hands. And there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of pent-up anger. But it rarely comes out. People generally internalize it. And they feel, it affects people's, way of seeing themselves. And people lose all hope to fight for themselves. And they just sort of succumb to their circumstances, emotionally and physically. But this guy, I'm telling you, this guy had a little bit of hope, and he felt that he had been wronged, and this is the result. I got a feeling I'll be talking about this more, but these are my early thoughts. This is Lit. I hope you will subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Peace.